Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SoxProspects.com podcast. We are the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox farm system from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Pawtucket, and all stops in between. Thank you for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I am the executive editor of SoxProspects.com, and I am joined, as always, by our director of scouting, Ian Kundle, and in the room making his podcast debut, although he is very unprofessionally snoozing on my desk, is Cheeto the kitten at 14 weeks old and about 4 pounds. So if you hear meowing in the background, it will be him. But that aside, Ian, what's going on, man? How are things?
Things are good. It's kind of a dreary day today up in the Northeast. But yeah, there's baseball going on. We're in the dog days at the end of the summer. The Red Sox are in good shape, though Chris Sale did go on the DL. But again,
he's apparently not worried about it, is the scuttlebutt. So
you're not worried that you've went on the DL twice in the last couple of weeks with a shoulder injury. I mean, I guess I'll just say, if I'm them, I'm being overly cautious to the point of like wrapping him in an air cast until October.
Just shut him down until like mid-September at this point.
Yeah, but yeah, I think other than that, things are good. The Red Sox system, there's been some good stuff going on there.
There has. Things are looking up. I mean, just I guess to kind of paint with a broad brush, in Portland, Michael Chavous and Bobby Dahlbeck literally sapped the power in the city of Portland the other day. The power actually went out at the park, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that.
But they're actually both hitting home runs like crazy. Chavous was our player of the week and the Eastern League player of the week, I guess.
Yep.
So he's starting to heat back up. Darwinzon Hernandez came off the DL recently, and he and Tanner Houck are both shoving in Salem, although Brian Mata, I guess, looks like he's probably not going to come back before instructs. He's got a back thing he's working through, and he's down in Fort Myers. So my guess is at this point,
I would just shut
take
it down
it easy,
at this point.
shut it down. We're in mid-August at this point. It's the 18th as we record this, by the way. But yeah, things are kind of looking up. Players are looking good. Some of the guys who got promoted are looking pretty good.
Duran just hitting.
Durin Duran. And did they activate Nick Duron yet, by the way? I
don't know. I don't envy having to differentiate those names, though.
Well, because that would have given them the chance. They would have given them Duran Duran. Or Duron Duran. And Rio Gomez is on the team as well now because he got promoted from Lowell.
Yeah, no, Duron's still on the DL.
So, all right, well, at least they've got one Duran and I guess if you pronounced it differently, Rio.
Well, they have Durin, too. They have Durin-Olinger, too. So they have a Duran, a Durin, and a Duron.
Yeah. That would be great. I forgot about Durin-Olinger.
Yeah.
Nice. Good work.
No, and then, Lowell, too, like guys like Devlin Granberg, Tyler Dearden, who we've talked about, and both who I think Dearden had an updated scouting report. Granberg's is in the works. They're both hitting up really well, too.
Yeah, Dearden's hitting really well, too. That's right. Yeah. Hey, and Podcast Joe 2.0, if you're able to layer in Rio by Duran Duran behind this for about 30 seconds, that'd be great.
Isn't that like a copyright issue?
Fair use.
Fair use.
Just let them come after us.
You won't. Just kidding. Please don't.
Let's not go there. But anyways, just to get some quick preliminaries, thank you all for your help with the Sox Prospects donation drive. I think we hit our target, right, Ian?
I believe so.
My understanding. So thank you all for keeping us not in the black, helping us break even, I guess would be the way I would put it.
Helping us stay in the business of providing you information about the Red Sox farm system.
Hey, we are your source for Red Sox-affiliated 16-year-old Dominicans and Venezuelans.
YOLO.
What can I tell you? And we also want to shout out, as always, our $5 level Patreon.com supporters. You can go to patreon.com/SoxProspects if you want to help support the show. Get some goodies for chipping in a little bit per episode. Those supporters are Sox signatures: Kirby Miller, Kyle Costigan, Tyler Woodrow, Jeff Traynor, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Ernest Shermer, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kenyon, and Andrew Wallen. Thank you to everyone. And as we say every episode, send your emails to podcast at SoxProspects.com. We want to talk about what you want to hear about. And Ian, we got a lot of questions this time around, so that's going to make up a good
email heavy,
good portion of the show. I love it. Like I said, if you guys want to hear about something, even if it's something that, seems a little esoteric or seems a little high-minded, if we can cover it in an episode. I know we've gotten questions in the past that are kind of like, give us a full recap on like Ben Cherington's time as the GM, and it's kind of like, well,
maybe in the off season,
and then of course we never get to him in the off season.
No.
But
maybe that'll change. You never know.
Maybe we will. But yeah, hit us with your questions. It can't hurt. We certainly won't get angry. But yeah, we'll get to a lot of those questions today. Ian, I guess just really touching on some quick news. I know we've kind of gotten away from doing the news since the last episode thing, but
not a lot's happened.
Not a ton has happened because we're actually keeping up now that I'm at a job where I can keep up with the podcast. But we should mention the Pawtucket Red Sox this week announced technically they have signed a letter of intent to move the team to Worcester in 2 years, which...
Yikes, that's going to be an
awkward. Yeah.
The Woo Sox, too. Can we agree that's a terrible name?
Awful. I hate Woo Sox. Is Woo a thing for Worcester?
I have no idea. I've never been to Worcester.
What's wrong with Worcester Sox?
What?
What's wrong with Worcester Sox with a Massachusetts accent?
This might be a little out there, but how about just not be called the Red Sox? Just come up with your own unique name. Like, what's wrong? Like, we've got like the teams in the South have like the jumbo shrimps and the baby cakes. Come up with some stupid, funny name. Like, this can be this week's, because we have our reaction to last week's episode. We've got to get to really quick after this, but we should have done it beforehand. But send us what you think the team name for the Worcester Red Sox AAA team should be. Give me a cool hat. Like, I don't want a bear on my hat.
Make it a local thing.
Yeah.
Or something funny. You could make it the Worcester microphone zippers in honor of Ian's microphone right now.
I don't have a zipper on, so that's not fair.
It's rubbing up against something. By the way, my uncle, it's hilarious, like emails me now because he's listened to a couple of the episodes. He makes fun of me making fun of you for your mic rubbing on your zipper.
Because he knows who the talent is and thinks it's hypocritical for you to be insulting the talent like that.
I'm not insulting you. I'm just giving you a heads up. Anyway, hit us up at podcast@soxprospects.com. If you try and tweet at us, admittedly, I guess just a little bit of a programming note. I'm unavailable the next 2 weekends to podcast, so it's going to be... Yeah, probably. We might try and hit you with a midweek episode. That's looking doubtful, so it's looking like September it'll be a couple more weeks before our next episode. But like I said, maybe we'll try and do something midweek. But at any rate, what's your Worcester minor league team name? And we'll think of some ideas too. I mean, I'm just trying to think of what Worcester. Or Massachusetts.
It's got to be something like I don't know.
Are there famous people from Worcester? Because, for example,
I've never been to Worcester, and I've lived in Massachusetts more or less my entire life. So
I've been a few times.
To ask for this. What?
I've been to a couple concerts there, and I think I went to like wrestling once when I was a kid. They did a TV taping at the Worcester Auditorium.
I'm going to go on Wikipedia and see what it tells me about Worcester.
And I was on WWE Superstars with my Bret Hart shades.
Let's see.
Because, I like the Brockton Rocks are called the Rocks because Rocky Marciano was from the Brockton area. And I like that. I like the local tie-in.
Yeah.
The Greenville Drive are the Drive because of the, the local area. There are a couple of plants down there. Like I think there's a BMW plant that's there. That's a big part of the local economy. US. The Salem Red Sox. It's not a great name, but at least the Red Sox, at least Fenway Sports Group owns them. Yeah. So that's
I look at it like, as I was saying, like it's what is it like? It's like there's teams like the Jumbo Shrimp and like
the Tampa Tarpons.
Like, just come up with something like unique. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's already a Red Sox in Massachusetts, and now obviously back in Massachusetts, it's like
Lowell Spinners.
Different.
Lowell Spinners is great.
Yeah, except did you see? There's some article like criticizing it, but whatever.
Why?
Anyway, because the article's premise was like it's living in the past when like
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What are you going to call them now? Like, let's not go there.
Let's not get into
this
argument. Because I have some takes on it, but I don't want to go there.
Failing local economy.
Yeah. But, like, the Worcester, I don't know, like, something to do with the Revolutionary War or something. I don't know. Because, like...
Nothing happened in Worcester.
It was the center of the American Revolutionary activity.
Worcester?
That's what Wikipedia is telling me. That doesn't make any sense.
Who put that in the Wikipedia entry?
Yeah, this as someone who's studied the Revolutionary War extensively in university. There's some interesting takes in here.
Hey, I've been studying it recently too. Last weekend I went to see Hamilton. So.
Oh, there you go.
And by the way, idea for next episode: we should battle rap about a prospect.
That's a terrible idea. No, but I don't know. In all seriousness, let us know what names you come up with, and if you think that the Woo Sox is a good name, feel free to defend it too. I just personally
you're wrong, but feel free to defend it.
Yeah, I did like though that I want to give credit. I think it was Chris Smith, the beat writer for
Mass Live.
Yeah, thank you. Said that they really missed opportunity because they said the stadium is going to be called Polar Park, I think because it's sponsored by Polar Seltzer. Mm-hmm. And he tweeted earlier that they really should have called it the Polar Grounds, which I really like Polo Grounds, Polar Grounds. I don't know. I thought it was pretty funny.
Maybe.
But the thing for me is my biggest takeaway, just in terms of in serious, was that they needed a new park. Pawtucket did. In terms of AAA parks, it wasn't good. It wasn't a good park for fans. It wasn't a good park for scouting. It wasn't like,
oh God. Yeah.
It just wasn't a good setup, and it wasn't in the greatest area. And they needed a new park somewhere. It didn't matter where it was. It just had to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest takeaway has to do with the park. That moving to Worcester, it doesn't really matter to me personally. Like, I don't have an attachment to Pawtucket like some people do. But they needed an updated park, and that's where they were going to get it. And I think the Red Sox are obviously going to be pro this move too, because they want their players playing in like a good park, good facilities. And this is going to be, it looks like a very nice stadium, right in downtown. And that's just the big thing for me.
Yeah. Having gone to school in Providence and then lived in Providence for another 4 years afterwards, I've obviously been to McCoy Stadium a number of times, and it's not a bad park. Like, I've been to some parks around here that are bad parks, right? At the A-ball level. So maybe this is the AAA equivalent of a park that's not great. I mean, the scouting thing, the thing that makes it tough is that all of the stands in the like main grandstand around kind of circling home plate going from like third to first, the front row is raised a fair amount. Was it 15 feet, Ian, you think?
Yeah, because it's impossible to judge break.
And there's it's pretty far from home plate to that.
There's a huge amount of foul territory.
It's a ton. I mean, a foul, like on a wild pitch, you can often, you could probably take two bases if you're fast.
It's also like, I've seen people tag up on foul balls, like the first baseman, like, like a pop up to the first baseman and you're on second. I've seen people tag up and go to third. Because it's like Oakland in that regard.
Yeah, there's a ton of foul territory. But like, you're far up. The concessions are just really outdated. Not a ton of parking. I haven't had a problem recently, but it's
I've never had a problem
when you're new to it though. Like, just the setup is not very well marked. Like, I remember I used to have to park like at times across the street in an industrial park.
Oh, I've parked there before.
Like, that's just not a good setup.
Yeah.
They needed a new park. I was really sad the Providence thing didn't go through, because that would have been ideal. Neat. The cool spot that they had set aside to put it in Pawtucket also would have worked, because it was
right on the water,
right off of 95, right on the water.
Yeah.
That would have been a great spot for it as well. But it just, they just didn't get it done, and it's end of an era. At least, the Red Sox, as long as the thing they're going to care about as an organization is keeping the team close. Worcester,
it's the same distance west of Boston.
You just come in on the Pike instead of on 95, right?
Which means it's going to be the traffic's going to be such a disaster getting out from Boston, because the Pike in the evening is so bad.
Nice catch.
Yeah, no, I was, yeah. I'm not looking forward to that driving part, but
I mean, it is what it is. End of an era, but like I said, it's going to be 2 years. I mean,
we had two. That's so weird.
I'll go ahead and say what I said to you and Mike. It's a little awkward, but it's like it reminds me of like, you know, when people get divorced and the parent moving out has like a certain amount of time to get out of the house and like takes the full amount of time. It's just kind of like. Ugh.
Except, I guess it's unavoidable when you're building a brand new stadium.
Yeah, you have to build a new stadium. Yeah. So it's awkward, but. You know, someone had the idea on our board, and apparently your mother had to say or saw this too. You were saying,
I don't know if it was out somewhere,
potentially moving a New York Penn League team to Rhode Island.
I would be all for that.
That could work.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
That park, it's like it still is usable. Like like a Penn League team would be perfect for that park in that area. Except the problem they're going to run into, it won't be a Red Sox affiliate, which is. I think part of what helps Pawtucket in that regards.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny if you're the Lowell Spinners, you probably don't want that. Actually, you know, I wonder if that would be too close.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. Because what is it, like 100 miles or something?
Something like that.
Well, no, but then
I mean, I guess if you can have the Fisher Cats in Portland, you can probably.
Well, you also have like Brooklyn and Staten Island.
Yeah, but I think that's probably a population thing too.
True. Good point.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they could probably do that. I don't know. Would you put it in McCoy? That seems like a kind of a big park for a New York Penn League team.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but they don't draw. It's got like the things that the Penn League likes, though. It's got like the barbecue tent and like the stands in the outfield, just like the grass burn where you can just stick people out there.
Big fan of the berm.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you like at the lower levels.
Mm-hmm. Quick follow up on last week's the last episode, not last week's, but. I think more people agreed with you, Ian. I don't know. What kind of feedback did you get on the I mean, here's the thing, too. It's the people have to understand. It was Ryan Brazier as the current example of the bigger picture discussion. Like, it wasn't an argument about Ryan Brazier, although that's kind of what it turned into.
Well, Ryan Brazier is pitching high leverage innings, though, so he's actually a valuable player, it turns out.
That's my point!
But not a prospect. I said player. Please note the difference. But yeah, everyone said I was right on Twitter.
I don't know about that. Let's see. Where's the? When did we release this? On the 7th?
Yeah. I'll just say, we definitely went on for a while, but we disagreed and both had pretty like passionate takes on each side. So we figured it was worth discussing.
Yeah, I mean,
because we don't disagree as much as we probably could. So we don't want to force disagreements. This was an actual disagreement, as you could probably tell. So
yeah, because I don't know if you guys know this, but you know those sports shows on TV and the radio where people are always disagreeing. Sometimes the guys don't actually feel that way, and they're arguing for the sake of entertainment product.
We don't force takes on this show.
I vehemently. I mean, well, first of all, it's not like we're making a ton of money on this, right?
True.
Anyway,
we don't make that Skip Bayless money on doing the podcast.
Yeah, we don't. That's true. Let's get to the real stuff, Ian.
Yes. Things are happening.
Things are happening. You've been to Pawtucket, speaking of the Paw Sox.
Yeah.
What do you have to report? We talked about some guys last time. We talked about, I think you had seen Mike Schwartz, so maybe not.
I saw him again.
You saw him again, so don't get into him.
I saw his best start of the year, though.
Okay. What was working? I mean, based off of, assuming people heard the scouting report last time.
Yeah, and there's actually, I'll have an article on his first start up next week. I just forgot to put it up Friday. And didn't want to put it up over the weekend. But I saw Schwartz's third start, I believe it was. I'm just trying to bring up his player page. Yeah, it was his third start against...
Sorry, I thought I was on mute when I just yawned like that.
It was against Norfolk, the Orioles AAA affiliate, and he threw a complete game shutout. Granted, it was a 7-inning doubleheader game. But 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. So it was a really good start. He was in control throughout, but it was kind of similar. There was the similarities in terms of his stuff diminished as after the 3rd inning, and similar to the previous start, which I talked about. The big difference was he just continued to command his fastball, and against Rochester, the second time through the order, they just stopped swinging his slider and just were murdering his fastball. Whereas in this start, he was actually commanding his fastball and still being effective with his slider. So he was able to continue to get outs even with diminished velocity. So that's what he's going to have to do if, to stick as a starter, even if when his velocity is ticking down, his command's going to have to be pinpoint, because at like 89, 90, there's not a lot of margin for error. And the other thing was he used his changeup a little bit more than the previous start. Again, it was the same thing. He threw like 1 or 2 that I would say were about average, but the rest were all like 30s or 40s. So he just doesn't seem to have a lot of confidence in the pitch, and I'm a little concerned he's going to reach a point where he can have success in AAA being fastball slider only, but that's just not going to work in a major league rotation. I'm a little concerned that he's going to be too reliant on it at the AAA level, because he knows he can get outs that way, kind of like what happened to Henry Owens during his initial go around in AAA, when he knew he could get everyone out with his fastball and his changeup and continued to do it. So he didn't work on his third pitch. So I'd like to see him kind of incorporate the changeup more, even if it impacts his results going forward. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a strong start. I still think he's probably more like a swingman type, but if he's going to succeed at the major league level, that was kind of the blueprint of how, especially if the changeup doesn't take a significant step forward.
Got it. How about at the plate? Anybody kind of stand out to you?
I would just say we kind of, Sam Travis has not had a good year, I think, is a mild way to say it.
I was going to say, that's not a very hot take.
But he's been really good of late.
I'll pull it up. You talk about what you saw. Yeah, Travis on the year is 266, 319, 378, 8 home runs in 86 games.
But how bad
82 strikeouts.
Yeah. It was terrible.
I'll pull up the game log so you talk about what you saw.
But he just looks a lot more comfortable at the plate than when I was seeing him early in the year. He's staying on the ball longer. He was having happy feet earlier in the year, where he was kind of bailing with early on. And in this, he wasn't doing that. He's starting to hit lefties too, which is nice. He had, I think, 5 hits in the doubleheader. Let me see, he had 2 in that game. And 2 in that. I'm sorry, he had 4 hits, or maybe 5. I can't remember if they ruled one of them an error. But he was just the most noteworthy thing to me was he was being more aggressive early in the count. Travis he's kind of passive at times, where he likes to get work deep counts, even though he doesn't walk that much. But in this game, it was kind of, if he was getting, a 0-1 or 1-0 fastball that he thinks he could handle, he was attacking it. And he was just making a lot of hard contact in the gaps. Problem still, power. I'm not sure it's there, even with the slight swing changes he's made. And, he's got 8 home runs on the year. He just doesn't have the loft in his swing that you need to be a corner guy. But it is interesting to me he's playing basically only left field now. He's played first base twice since Josh Ockamy got called up almost 2 weeks ago. So it seems like they're pretty committed to him out there. And if a first base left field guy who can crush lefties, if he can do that, that has big league bench value. So I still think there's a chance he could be a decent little bench player, but I think projecting him as a starter for even a second division team is kind of a stretch at this point.
Yeah, just to give you, the arbitrary endpoints game, I think I did a different split than you did when we were talking before we started recording, Ian. But since July 1st, which includes one major league game that I think he doubled in actually, in 37 games, 157 plate appearances from July 1st through August 17th, 326, 369, 458, 4 home runs and 7 doubles. Still not quite the power you want out of a corner guy, honestly. He's not exactly mashing his way into forcing a call-up. He's hitting well. Average on balls in play is 358, so it's not like he's getting insanely lucky. So it's better, compare that with the line, from the beginning of the season through June 30th was 215, 279, 308. So a sub 600 OPS on a 295 average on balls in play, with 4 home runs in 54 games, 215 plate appearances. So a lot more strikeouts too. There were 64 strikeouts in 54 games. So, not the strikeout ratio you're looking for. Whereas since July 1, there's only 22 strikeouts in 37 games. So
yeah, and against lefties for the year, he's now up to 302, 371, 465. So that's
where?
On our player page.
Really? Because on Baseball Reference versus lefties, they have him at 284, 361, 442. Interesting.
We're going to have to figure that out. How many at-bats?
108 plate appearances, 95 at bats.
Okay, this only has 86.
There you go.
Oh, I'm not. Do you know why?
I was going to say, you're probably looking at the wrong thing.
No, I'm looking at just Pawtucket stats. I'm not taking into account Boston. He was 1 for 9 against Boston.
Okay.
So just in AAA this year, it's 302.
So that's probably more useful right now.
Yeah, because he's 1 for 9 against in the majors. But I mean, that's just like that's for him. That's important. He has to hit lefties.
Yeah,
like that's so.
I mean, that's the one thing he has to do. Like him not hitting lefties makes him useless.
Borderline unusable. Yeah. So I think he's going to get called up in September when the rosters expand because he's on the 40 man. So I think he'll be up, but I kind of see him as trade bait during this offseason if they can find a taker in some sort of deal, or if they can extract some value from him, maybe to an NL team who sees him as more of a usable player. Just for what the Red Sox need, it's tough to have a backup first base left fielder only, considering you're already carrying. They have like going into next year, they have their starting outfield locked in, plus JD Martinez already.
He's got an option remaining though. So
I thought he was out of options.
No,
okay.
He burned his first one last year, so he'll have one remaining.
Okay, then maybe he will have another year, but still, it's good to see. Was just the takeaway for me. And then I'm just trying to see if there was anything else of note. No, not really. More of the same.
Did you see relievers worth mentioning?
I saw Marcus Walden. Lakins was away, unfortunately. Congratulations to him and his wife on the birth of their child, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was away, and Schwartz threw a complete game, so we didn't really get any relievers.
Damn you, Mike Schwartz.
It's miserable. Well, it also, the Pawtucket bullpen is literally the Angels bullpen now. I don't know if you saw that. There are like 5 ex-Red Sox in the Angels bullpen right now or something.
Ty Buttrey, Noe Ramirez.
Jerez.
Oh, that's right.
Jerez is just shoving in the majors too.
Yeah. Good for Ty. Good for them for Buttrey and Jerez for coming up.
Jose Alvarez was the other one.
Oh, right. Well, it's like you forget that he was once in the system.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But it's just interesting to me that all these guys who we talked about it were probably unlikely to get a shot with the Red Sox. Harris now 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, whip of .50, no earned runs allowed as a lefty. And I don't know how Butcher's been doing.
I'm pulling it up right now. He's only pitched in 1 game. He threw 1 scoreless inning, allowed 1 hit.
Yeah, so it's just interesting that those 2 guys who didn't get a shot with the Red Sox are now in the Angels bullpen. Granted, I don't think the Angels are in contention, but they were guys with good stuff. You got to give something to get something.
Yeah, the Angels, their rotation is a mess right now.
Okay.
The Angels are at 62-62, so they're 13 games back in the division, which makes them like 12 back in the wild card. So.
Yeah, that happens. Yep.
Yeah. So that was making a run at the Astros, man. Anyway, all right.
Good. And then that was other than that was pretty much it.
All right. Well, let's get to the email spectacular then, man.
Shall we?
I'm excited to get to some emails. We have a bunch of emails.
Let's talk about what the people want to talk about.
Let's do that. Well, one email I want to get to first is from Andy Wallen, one of our patrons, and he just had feedback on the show last week. He said, if a guy is in the farm system and hasn't had enough MLB time to no longer qualify as a pass prospect, I appreciate being able to find out more about them on your site. I don't care how old they are. If they may be able to help the big league club, I want to know about them. And my site of choice for learning about the guys who could be able to help in the Sox in the future is SoxProspects.com. Editor's note, as damn well it should be. Is a guy like Brazier the typical player to rank and scout on your site? No. But who else is going to tell us who they are and what they might be able to contribute to the team? I'd rather know more about a 30-year-old who is pitching better than expected and might throw some important innings at Fenway this year than a 17-year-old kid playing in an instructional league who has about a 0.5% chance of ever playing in the majors. Keep up the good work, Andrew Wallen. Thanks, man.
Well, Chris Hatfield's burner email account. What I would say is that we will still write about those guys and have a report on them. I'm just saying I don't want to rank them for the record. So. Yeah, but you can still get the info on them here. It's just,
All right, we won't get into it again.
Hatfield burner account. We just don't need to have them ranked.
It's actually
next email.
It's actually Firefly. I taught her to use the computer.
Gotcha.
All right. Getting to the more regular emails. Our first email is from Josh. And Josh says, "Hey Chris, love everything you guys do on the website and especially the podcast. Thanks for efforts there." Thank you, Josh. He asks, I was wondering if on the next podcast, if you and Ian could do a comparison between Michael Chavous and Bobby Dahlbeck. If you could include in that how far you think each is away from AAA/MLB, and what you would reasonably guess the path forward is for both of them over the next couple of years, that would be great as well. Thanks again, and go Sox. Thanks for the email, Josh. It's an interesting comparison. Obviously, they're on the same team. I haven't actually been meaning to check on their time at third base since they started sharing the lineup, I guess. And they're basically alternating back and forth a couple games. Starting with August the 2nd, it's Jansen Whitty and Michael Chavous split third base in the doubleheader. Doubleheader on the 4th, Chavous and Dahlbeck split. 5th, Dahlbeck. 7th, Chavous. 8th, Dahlbeck. 9th, Dahlbeck. 10th and 11th, Chavous. 12th through 14th and 15th, Dahlbeck. 16th and 17th, Chavous. Chavous has actually played a decent amount of first base. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games at first base, whereas Dahlbeck, when he hasn't been at third, has DH'd. So they're both basically playing every day. And not basically, pretty much literally playing every day. But they're kind of doing it differently, whereas Dahlbeck is DHing, whereas Chavous hasn't DH'd really much at all in the month of August. He DH'd that game that Whitty started at third. But otherwise, one of them has been at third base, and either it's been Dahlbeck DHing or Chavous playing first base unless they're getting a day off. Dahlbeck hasn't gotten a day off since getting promoted, actually. So, interesting there. But I think he also got like 3 days off or something because of rain or whatever.
That almost guarantees that he'll have the day off when I want to go see them next week.
Probably will. He'll probably sit the doubleheader.
No.
But yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. We almost kind of talked about this recently, and you got a question from a scout. Do you want to talk about that? I think that'd be a good kind of way to frame it.
I know what you're talking about. I need to look back and see where it is because I think the
question, I'll paraphrase it then, was I think it was something like if you made the hit tool the same. We'll start here. If you made the hit tool the same, who would you like more? And for me, it really wasn't close.
Oh yeah, that was the question.
Yeah,
it was literally if you take hit tool out of it, or you give them the same hit tool, who would you prefer, Dahlbeck or Chavous?
For me, Dahlbeck is not close.
Yeah, I would.
He's a better defender. I mean, both of them have very good arms. Dahlbeck, I would say easy plus.
Dahlbeck's arm's like a 70. It's
it
like
might be a 70 arm.
Yeah. Chavous is no slouch either, though. Chavous has a cannon.
Above average? 55?
Yeah. No, 60.
60 arm? Okay.
Yeah.
So they're both good. Fielding-wise, this has come up. There was an article recently I think they quoted Ben Crockett as saying Dahlbeck's defense has consistently been, I think the quote was, it's been plus, the defense has been plus consistently all year. I didn't see that.
I'm not sure he's a plus defender. I think
he's not a plus defender.
He's like above average.
He's above average, 55. And I think he's firmly above average. 55. I'd be very comfortable. Might he become a plus defender? Maybe. I mean, you got to know what you're saying when you say plus defender, though, right? He's solid over there. I don't know that he makes spectacular happen.
My question with his defense is the range. He's just not. He's not the most athletic. I mean, he's like a good athlete for his size, considering he's like built like a linebacker and he's like 6'4", 230.
Yes, very athletic for his size.
But like he just doesn't have the foot speed, like especially in short bursts. And you kind of see it too when he's running the bases. Like he's not actually. I think he's probably like a 40 runner, and he'll probably drop down to like a 35 eventually.
I think that sounds right.
But it's more like getting out of the box. He's pretty slow, but once he gets going, because he has long strides, he can actually move. And so it's similar, like that first step is just a little slow at third base compared to like the elite defenders you see.
Right.
And I think that's like what's kind of missing from his game because his hands are fine. He's got the arm. Footwork's pretty good. But it's still like he's also a little tall, so you can get a little stiff at times.
Yeah. I saw a couple balls eat him up when I sat on the series.
And that's understandable. I mean, he's got a long way to go to get down for ground balls, especially compared to someone like Chavous, who's 5'10".
Right. So,
defensively, it's not he's better. Chavous, I think best case, we're looking at like a fringy 45-50 defender at third. And that's like generous. Mm-hmm. And I think it just kind of it says what you were talking about when you were breaking down their positions. Like there's been no discussion of Dahlbeck playing any other position, whereas Chavous is playing first base. They've talked about second base. Like I bet he plays outfield in the Arizona Fall League if he goes there.
Yeah, or at least the second base. I could see him getting time
he'll play somewhere else. Like, and I think he's pretty much a lock for
because
the
I think Chavous is no question going to the Arizona.
I think Dahlbeck could go too. Actually,
I do too. I actually said this on Twitter recently. Let me find it. I tweeted out my projections
because that's actually probably something. That's about when do they get announced? End of the month, right?
Well, I think end of the month. Yeah, it used to be early August, but they moved it back. I think because teams were like, why? Yeah, I mean that's going to probably come out by the time our next podcast gets recorded. But I think I went Chavous is a lock. I would bet my house on.
You would get you couldn't get like minus 10,000 that Chavous is going to be there because of all the at bats he's going.
Okay, yeah. Here's my list. Here's what I went with. Tell me what you think. I went Chavous, Dahlbeck, Chatham.
Agree.
Chatham, because he needs the at bats from missing and the reps at short from missing time early in the year. Matthew Gorst, recently promoted.
They all said leave.
Travis Lakins.
Debatable, just because I don't think it's out of the question that he's on the major league team.
Fair. Mike Schwartz.
If he's not, I'm not sure on that one either. I wonder what his innings are because he's already. I was looking at this yesterday.
I don't think they weren't bad when I looked.
No,
because he hasn't been. Knock on all of the wood. He's been healthy.
He threw 134 last year, and he's at 131 now. So he's going to make
how many more starts is he going to get?
4. So he's going to be at like 150.
20 more innings?
155. So
maybe.
I don't know. That would be my only concern with him would be the innings.
Yes, but they usually send a starter. If not him, I could see like a Matt Kent or...
Well, that's what I was going to say, like Kent or Dedger. Actually, I don't know if you can send Dedger. But
no, you can't send Dedger because he has to play in Venezuela.
Sure.
But Matt Kent or Kyle Hart would be the other guys that I would say.
Oh, you can't send Darwinzon either. He was going to be my dark horse because of the innings. He needs innings, but you can't send him either.
Nope.
But yeah, I think
I don't think they're going to send Tanner Houck. I think you just shut him down.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if I'd end the season strong with him.
Yeah.
It's good. It should be a good group, I think, is the story.
It will be interesting. And I said, even if they send Schwartz as the starter, I could see a Kent or a Hart going to pitch in the bullpen just to get more innings.
Yeah, and they have to send a catcher, right?
Well, if they send a catcher. They didn't send one last year or the year before, I think. If they sent a catcher, I could either Austin Rye or John Nunez.
Yeah, it would probably be Rye.
Probably Rye. Oh, Nunez probably has to play in...
I don't think he's eligible.
And where's he from, the Dominican?
He's from Dominican, yeah.
Yeah, so he can't go. So it's Rye. Thank you. Rye goes. Haven't they sent Christian Vasquez? Maybe not.
He's Puerto Rico, though.
Yeah, but Puerto Rico has a winter league. That's the point.
Oh, I don't know.
If you're from
I think it's just ones that run concurrently, I thought.
Well, Puerto Rico used to.
Oh,
last year was late because of the hurricane.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. There's no real outfielder there, but like you said, maybe Chavous is the quote outfielder. I could see them sending Tate Matheny if they need to send an outfielder. Yeah,
but I think with kind of looping back to the comparison of the two, I think if you're talking about like very best case scenario, I actually think Dahlbeck probably has slightly more upside than Chavous. But I also think there's like I have more confidence at this point in Chavous' ability to make contact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and we kind of mentioned, so we should probably go there, that Chavous has been...
He's been breaking of late.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I'll pull it up, but you make your point and I'll pull up his page.
I have his last 10 up already if you want me to. His last 10 games, he's hitting .462 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs, and this is a good point of comparison. Chavous is 39 at-bats, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. In that same time, Bobby Dahlbeck has 38 at-bats, 16 strikeouts.
I mean,
that's the thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, here you go. Actually, Chavous, since the calendar turned to August, again, playing arbitrary endpoint game here, but in 14 games, 58 plate appearances, 449, 534, 714.
Seems good.
4 doubles and 3 bombs in 14 games.
Yeah.
Whereas he'd been, since, getting up to Portland for good, July 12th through the 31st, which included he was down for 9 games or 9 days with a wrist?
Yeah, he hurt it. I think it was his wrist.
But in that range of games, he hit 184, 311, 395. So he was hitting for power, but the hits weren't falling, and he struck out 12 times in 10 games. Whereas in the month of August, he has struck out just 8 times in 58 plate appearances over 14 games. So
yeah, which is, I mean, the K percentage.
You know, I'm kind of wondering, do you give him a cup of coffee in Pawtucket?
I think he could. If he continues to hit like this the rest of the year, you could, because Pawtucket's playing like Jansen Whitty, who's a great org player at third base, or like Tony Runda, guys like that. So they have at bats basically. Yeah, his K percentage in August.
And that way you can play them both full time you get Dahlbeck more reps at third, although neither Pawtucket or Portland's making the playoffs.
Yeah.
But the third baseman's been Whitty and DeJesus and Brendan Phillips.
Yeah. So I think that, they both have their pros and cons, and they it's a good problem to have. And it's something, the Red Sox haven't had in a while because they haven't had much depth at one position. And kind of with Devers, who I think you mentioned on Twitter, is like significantly ahead of those. And
no, it was on the board, I think.
Okay, I just saw it somewhere. There was a discussion about like how would you rank these guys?
Well, it wasn't how you would rank them. Someone made the point on our forum. I mean, I guess just for completeness' sake, Dahlbeck's numbers in Portland, we should mention 13 games, 298, 382, 681, 5 bombs, 3 doubles in 13 games.
But he also has 20 strikeouts and 47 at
20 strikeouts, yeah. 55 plate appearances. So, yeah that's high. And 391 average on balls in play, so he's getting a little lucky.
Dahlbeck balls in play, though, is
that's true, because he scorches everything.
Because everything is crushed, always be high. So it's always going to be
fair. High. Yeah, but anyway, someone was mentioning, the Red Sox have kind of a log jam at the corners coming up. And we should probably get to – there was another question. Let me see if I can find it.
Good segue. Unintentional.
Yeah, we got a question that dealt with these guys. Oh, yeah, all right. Well, it's the next email. Our next email comes from Austin Wolschlager. And Austin had 2 questions. The first one was, who do you think has the best chance of making the big leagues in the next 2 years between the 3-corner infielders, Michael Chavous, Josh Ockamy, and Bobby Dahlbeck? And someone on our forum at forum.soxprospects.com mentioned a, quote, logjam with Devers and those 3. First of all, Devers will stay at third as long as he's still Rafael Devers.
Yeah,
because he is light years ahead of those 3. That's not a knock on those 3.
Those guys are talented players. Devers is talent-wise is on another level, step up.
Let's put it this way: Chavous is 23. Okay, Dahlbeck is 23. They're like a month apart, or a little over. I think they're 2 months apart in age. Ockamy is 22. He's but only because he's a few months younger than them. He's an October birthday. Chavous is June. Dahlbeck is August. So they're all 95 birthdays, right?
No, Dahlbeck is June.
Oh, okay. It's the other way around then. Yeah, Dahlbeck's June. Chavous is August.
August. Yeah.
Ockamy is October. Devers is a full year younger than them. He's an October 96 birthday, and he's already like a full-time major leaguer and has basically spent a year and a half in the majors at this point, and he's a very good major league hitter. He rehabbed in Lowell, and I think he was like midway in terms of like age on the team, and he's the rehabbing major leaguer. I mean, he's got 6. He's probably going to hit 20 home runs in the major leagues this year as a 21-year-old.
Yeah, and obviously the batting average and OBP are low, but it's going to go up. Like
because he's 21.
Yeah,
so he's, as long as he's hitting, and I know someone will say, well, the bat will play it first, right? In theory, you call Dahlbeck up and maybe he's a better defender. No, what you do, right, is you get someone else to play first base who will hit better than the other 3 guys.
Yeah.
Unless those guys are one of your, maybe one of those guys is your option there, but Devers isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So there's that. And so, I mean, maybe you wind up trading those guys, but you let that problem work itself out. Players get hurt. Devers is on the DL for the second time.
Both Chavous and Dahlbeck have had injury issues.
Yeah, exactly. So you let it work yourself out. There's no reason you can't keep all those guys in the system for now.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think you'll see it more next year because Chavous is going to be in Pawtucket next year. Dahlbeck will get up to Pawtucket at some point next year. Mm-hmm. Then we'll see what they start doing defensively, and that'll give you like kind of a clue of their thinking.
And I mean, the question from Austin was who you think has the best chance of making the big leagues in the next 2 years. I mean, they're all going to, quote, make the big leagues in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they all didn't at some point.
But it's just kind of like sticking in the big leagues in part has to do with opportunity. Are you saying who has the best chance of the three at becoming a starter for the Boston Red Sox? That's a completely different question, and I would probably say Chavous, just because he's a little ahead of Dahlbeck.
Yeah.
And I can see him playing first, whereas Dahlbeck, I can't see them moving him to first. That just seems like a waste.
I mean, the way Dahlbeck gets moved to first is if he's in AAA and his bat is he's shown he can make contact and hit home runs, and they're like, we need to find a spot for him.
And Devers is playing fine because people are probably yelling at us right now like Devers isn't a good defender. Like he's a below average defender right now, probably. He has the tools to become at least an average defender, if not better. So you let him keep running.
Well, Devers is a better defender than Chavous too. So
he is. He's a much better defender than Chavous. I'm saying Dahlbeck.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's just you don't just willy nilly move. I mean, because remember the thing that comes to mind is Uecker, right? Who was a average defender at third. They moved him over to first because they got Lowell. Fine, that makes sense, right? Because Lowell was a very good defensive third baseman when they first acquired him. Mm-hmm. And Uecker became a arguable Gold Glove first baseman. And then they tried to move Uecker back over to third, and he was terrible.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't played third base. It's
a hard transition. Third base is not an easy position to play in the major leagues. And I think that's the biggest thing we're seeing with Devers is the speed of the game at third base in the major leagues compared to AAA is night and day. Mm-hmm. Like the ball gets on you a lot quicker. You have less time to make the throw. You have to be a lot quicker in your decision making. Your instincts have to be on point. And I think that's part of what the adjustment Devers is kind of running into. And obviously his defensive stats this year aren't great. And that's the same issue those other guys are going to run to. Even good defensive third basemen, run into some trouble initially out of the gate.
Right. Austin's second question is, I know Durin Duran has speed that is utilized well in the outfield, but does it surprise you, assuming he means that they've moved him to the outfield, does it surprise you, considering there isn't much second base talent in the minors and Dustin Pedroia's injuries, only 2 of the current top 40 are second basemen in Brett Netzer and Ever Luis Lozada? Thanks for the questions, Austin. I guess second baseman, quote unquote, that's correct. But I would add to that our number 18 prospect is Zue Lin, who could play second base. There are shortstops who could play second. So if you add that, you're now adding a top 10 prospect in CJ Chatham. You're adding, guys like Anthony Flores, who are way down the line. You're adding, Duran could, in theory, move back to second later on or something. I don't know. Keeping on looking down the line here. I guess not as many guys as I thought. Kervin Suarez now has moved to center field, so you could add him to the Jared.
They just don't have a lot of infielders is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Esteban Quiroz is a second baseman. He's in our top 40, so maybe he meant active. Look, I mean, okay, Dustin Pedroia basically has a lost season injury-wise. He could be back next season. On the current Major League roster, they have Brock Holt and Eduardo Nunez. Maybe you go acquire a second baseman. I mean, they went and got traded for Ian Kinsler. I think you don't make decisions with guys in Greenville.
That's the takeaway right there.
Yeah. Based on the Major League team, right?
Correct. You don't you put Duran where you project him as the most valuable asset or valuable player for your team going forward, and they've determined clearly that they think outfield is a position for him. And I mean, we're not the ones to disagree with that. You're not going to predicate a player's defensive position who's two years away from the big leagues at a minimum by what's going on with the major league team now, because as you said, things can change. So, I mean, they think he's most valuable in the outfield, and I would tend to agree that I think he could be a really good defender in the outfield if he figures it out, given his speed. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what they're going with. And if he continues to hit, they'll figure out the defensive position later. And if it means they have to move him back to second base, so be it. But I'd be more, I wouldn't worry about that right now is what I'd say.
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly it.
Especially because he's continuing. I mean, the power is not there, which is kind of what we talked about. Even though I know we got some questions, at least I did, about he's hit home runs. Is there power there? Blah blah blah. It's not a power swing at all. But
he's just hitting. And that's the thing for me is he just needs to put the ball in play. Like
right.
he'll make things happen with his speed. Like, he might be a guy who only ever hits, 5-10 home runs a year, but if he puts the ball in play and, keeps the strikeout rate down and gets on base, he's going to wreak havoc. And, the stolen base numbers, the caught stealing percentages, he's getting caught stealing more than you'd like. But that's just an instincts thing. He needs to work on his reads. And, they have minor league base running coaches who are going to teach him how to read pitchers well and everything. Mm-hmm. So that's not a concern. But, given the returns have been really impressive. And, yeah, that's just, it's good to add players like that to the system because as we talked about, he's the type of player they don't really add the athlete like him.
Yeah. Our next question comes from our patron, Ernest Shermer, and he says, in your time covering the system, can you name one guy you were shocked turned into a legit major leaguer? And going the other way, is there one guy you were sure was going to make it big but flamed out short of the majors, not injury related? So that would, in theory, take out guys like a Ryan Kalish. I think would probably be the big one there that is disqualified, right, in terms of just injuries, just ended his career basically. And maybe like a Casey Kelly. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll let you go first, Ian. I know there are a couple guys who come to mind here for these questions. You're on mute.
Yeah. I would say in terms of guys who I thought were going to be pretty good, at least be a solid major leaguer in some capacity who didn't, Alan Webster's the one that stands out to me. Mm-hmm. For those who are kind of newer to the site, he was probably the big prospect along with Robbie De La Rosa in the Nick Puto trade that Chris Hatfield said was never going to happen back in the day. And he came over and I remember I saw him his first couple starts and he was just an uber athlete at pitcher, like ridiculously athletic. He was up to like mid 90s, high 90s with fastball, had some feel for secondaries and he got a cup of coffee, but he just could never figure out the command and control. He just didn't throw enough strikes and kind of flamed out as a result of that. And I thought at the worst he'd be reliever just because he could run his fastball up, I want to say up to like 90, the high 90s. And then with it, he had a good slider, but just didn't work out for whatever reason, whether it be, it seemed like it was a combination of kind of like makeup and then the command and control issues.
Yeah, he definitely got the deer in headlights look a few times. I remember at first trying to defend it as just kind of like, that's just how he looks. And then after a few more times, it's like, that might actually be a makeup thing. Like, yeah,
he just didn't have the mentality to handle those leverage innings, it seemed.
Yeah.
So, because his stuff was so good, though.
Yeah, with the fastball was slider, right?
His fastball up to 98. Oh, no, it was a changeup, too. He had like a plus changeup.
Right. Yeah,
and then
I was stunned that he didn't at least turn into a reliever.
Exactly, and that was the thing. You look about, what was it, his first year? When was he acquired? Yeah, it was with Pawtucket in 2013. He had 116 strikeouts and 105 innings, and with a WHIP under of 1.09. And like that was where
top 5 prospect in a decent system.
Yeah, and he just with Boston, he got 2 cups of coffee, and he just didn't miss bats at the major league level, and he walked too many guys, and didn't work out.
Yeah, for me, I mean, there's several guys who we've had that just never made it, who we thought a lot of. I mean, that's kind of that's prospecting, right? I mean, that's really it. I would probably say maybe Lars Anderson, just because he was such a big deal for a while. Everybody remembers him, former top prospect in the system. He recently did a set of great stories on playing in Japan and Australia for Fangraphs, so go find those. They're outstanding. But, he was just a very thoughtful guy, really good to talk to. Maybe a little bit out there for some, but I liked him a lot. But, if you look at, for example, 2008 in Portland as a 20-year-old in 41 games, hit 316, 436, 526. I mean, if a guy at age 20 did that in the system right now, they would easily be the number 1 prospect in the system. I mean, it would not be a question, right? I mean, I don't think I'm wrong there. And then for whatever reason, maybe it was just the pressure of being the top prospect in the system, but he just, 2009 did not hit well in Portland. 2010 came back and was good to start the year in Portland, hit really well in 17 games, and then went up to Pawtucket and was just pretty good. And just kind of never got his groove again. He kind of bounced around, was in the Boston system until the end of 2012, was traded for Stephen Wright in a trade that I would never have thought has turned into what's really been just a highway robbery that it turned into. With Stephen Wright now being a major league starting pitcher when healthy. But from there, he spent a year in the White Sox system in AAA, went to the Cubs system for a year, was in the Dodgers system for 2 years, and then he's played in, like I said, Japan, Australia. Apparently was going to start a podcast with Ryan Kalish at one point that just never seemed to happen, called Two Haggard Salmon, I think, or something like that. Anyway, I was really surprised that didn't go anywhere, that he just never really even established himself as kind of a bench bat in the major leagues. As far as the other side of the question, Ian, a guy I was surprised made it. Maybe just we'll do these quickly because people will know who they are. But the really obvious one that stood out to me was Daniel Nava.
Yeah.
I remember, they signed him for $1 out of an indie league team. He didn't even start in college. Those guys just don't make the majors.
Yeah, I have a random one in terms of the question was impact, right? Or what was the question exactly?
Shocked turned into a legit major leaguer.
Okay, this person isn't really a legit major leaguer. I was just shocked this person made the major leagues. Do you remember Hunter Cervenka?
Yeah.
I was stunned last year, or in 2016, when I saw that he was a member of the Braves bullpen and actually threw 34 innings that year and was decent. Because he was so bad with the Red Sox. And yeah, there was a lot going on there, but I just did not think he was ever going to be. I didn't think, he was with the Red Sox until 2011. I think he was traded that offseason to the Cubs for something. I don't remember what, but I just never thought he would be a big leaguer. But he bounced around the minors for, almost a decade or seven years before making it, and then eventually got a cup of coffee, and now he's back in indie ball. But yeah, for him, that's the one for me.
Yeah, that's more because you had seen him and just didn't see it, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and there are guys we've you hear things about him and you're like, okay, that guy doesn't have the mentality to make it, and they either, prove you wrong, or it's just kind of interesting when you get proven right. So, anyway, interesting question. Thanks for that, Ernest. Next question is from Ethan Barry. Ethan asks, if the Red Sox wanted to dump Pablo Sandoval's contract this offseason, one, is that even possible since he's been DFA'd? And I think we'll probably start there because I don't think they can. Or stop there because I don't think they can do that, right?
Yeah, as far as I understand, you can't trade, quote-unquote, dead money. And it's a fair question because in other leagues you can do that.
Yeah,
but
I don't think you can do that. For the reasons Ethan then says, what type of prospect do you think they would have to attach to do that? Seems like it would be worth considering if it means re-signing Kimbrel or working on an extension with Mookie, JD, Sale. I don't think they need to work on an extension with JD. He's got a 5-year deal.
No, he's an opt-out.
Oh, that's true. But
yeah,
I guess that's a good point. On the flip side, if you're a non-contending team with a good-sized payroll like the Blue Jays, Giants, or Angels, why wouldn't you do that, assuming the owner signs off? If the Red Sox were out of the race, I would love for them to take on contracts to project prospects. Yeah, exactly. I agree, and it doesn't happen because you can't.
Yeah, and it would be interesting, but he would have to be on there. He'd have to be on the, because you saw it with the point with Sandoval. Do you remember the Bronson Arroyo trade where they had to give up Touki Toussaint, who just made his major league debut? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, what was it? You'd have to actually trade the player to do it.
The D-backs traded Bronson Arroyo. The Braves traded. No, the D-backs traded Bronson Arroyo.
No. They traded Touki to the Braves.
Yeah, along with Bronson Arroyo.
Oh, right. But it was actually trading Bronson Arroyo.
Yeah, which is that. But even though he wasn't going to pitch again, but it was just he was on the 60-day DL, so they traded him, and basically the Braves ate whatever his contract was. I think it was 2 years, $10 million a year or something, right, and to get Touki Toussaint, who was the number 13 pick in the draft the previous year.
Yeah.
So even if they could for some reason do it, there's your point of reference. Sandoval's making twice as much as Arroyo was. They don't have a good prospect, probably good enough to dump.
You're giving up a top 10 prospect again, and that's why you just DFA him.
Yeah,
because you're not going to get rid of that contract.
No, and so that's So that was just the one trade I can remember that was a clear salary.
I'm glad you thought of that because that's good.
All right, and Toussaint's now a top 50 prospect in all of baseball. Yeah, exactly.
Our next question is from Mark Lenardi, and Mark says, "Hey guys, do you ever think easy for me to say? Do you ever think Pedro Castellanos unlocks some of his raw power from that big frame? He obviously has above average. He obviously has an average to above average hit tool and has performed at every level, especially recently, but a contact hitting first baseman with light defense will surely have a tough time landing a starting big league spot. And then he also asked, how much do you weigh performance versus raw tools when ranking a prospect? Thanks, love the website and the show. Thanks, Mark. Pedro Castellanos, for context, for those listening, Pedro Castellanos is the regular first baseman in Greenville. He's also getting a lot of time in left field recently, hitting 309, 343, 389. Finally hit his first home run recently, which I wasn't even aware of. In 73 games, 285 at-bats, 303 plate appearances, just 41 strikeouts, so the K rate's only 13.5%, but ground ball percentage of 50.2%.
Yikes.
So he's beating the ball into the ground, and he's got some raw power. We've seen it.
Oh no, I've seen him hit like big time yaks during
that. Yeah, we've seen him in BP take it deep. He's just not translating that into games.
Like raw power wise, he has as much as maybe a little less than like Marino Campana, who has like 20 home runs for them or something.
Well, that's
15.
also because Campana goes up there and just
he just hits yaks. That's
sells out for bombs.
Good for him. Yeah. Only 25% K percentage though.
On Campana.
Yeah,
but he's also hitting 253.
Castellanos, obviously the average is good again, considering he was terrible to start the year too.
Yeah, he's been a lot better lately. I'll pull up the recent.
And his problem is two things. His swing, it doesn't have loft in it during games for whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but he just doesn't elevate the ball in games. And the other thing is his approach is actually kind of bad, even though he doesn't strike out a lot, but that's because he swings at everything early in the count and he gets hits, but he doesn't wait for pitches that he can drive, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And, that's going to lead, he's going to get singles, he's got a good contact rate, but he's swinging at pitches he can't elevate. And that's, you're not going to hit for power and tap into your frame if you're swinging at, a pitch away that you just poke into right field for a single. So,
yeah,
there's a chance, but I think he's someone who's going to have to undergo a swing change or some regards in order to, because he's never hit for power at all since he signed.
Right. Yeah. Again, the arbitrary endpoints game, right? But if you use July 12th in his last 28 games, 117 plate appearances, 394, 427, 532, 10 doubles, a triple, and a home run. The home run, he finally hit that on August 8th.
Well, that's interesting though, because he has.
And he's actually playing a lot more first base lately.
He also has all but 5 of his extra base hits in that time period. So I wonder if something did change with his swing.
Well, either changed with his swing, but it's worth mentioning. He played the first month of the year, and then he was out. He played his last game on May 1st before going on the DL, and he missed an entire month. He came back on June the 9th. Looks like he might have been a little rusty, but even if you do the arbitrary endpoints game going back to June 21st through August the 17th, it's 351, 383, 446, 11 doubles. Good. So you add a double to it. The section I did was just most of his power. So if you figure shaking a little rust off, was he playing through something?
That's a good question. He's such a weird prospect to me.
Well, it's weird. In the month of July, he played left field 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and he played first base 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and he DH'd 5 times. Whereas in the month of August, he's played first base 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times, has not played left field.
Well, that's because they called up Duran.
Huh?
Duran got called up like August 3rd, and he plays outfield every day. And then they don't have a first baseman.
But it's. I guess they could have been playing him in the outfield out of need too.
I think it was out of need because they just didn't have enough. Because you look at who's on the DL and everything, they don't have any outfielders. Like legitimately don't have any.
Yeah, but okay. So you look at the lineups in Greenville that month. Who are the other outfielders? Campana. Suarez is the everyday center fielder. Campana was playing right field most of the time. You had Acosta and you had Wren.
Right. And Jordan Wren's not an everyday player.
But he was playing every day. He's playing pretty much every day now.
Right. No,
he's playing more than Campana.
How do I look at the lineups? Oh, there it is. Sorry, I found it. Sorry.
He's playing left field more than Campana in the month of August. Campana's DHing more than he's playing left field.
Yeah, because Campana's a terrible defensive outfielder.
But they're playing Ren. That's what I'm saying. That the outfield.
But they're playing someone.
But they were playing Campana and right. Duran came up and he moved Campana mostly to DH. So that's why I'm saying Duran coming up hasn't really.
Oh, that was my theory.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. You're wrong.
You go back. No, I'm not.
They were playing Zach Sterry a lot more at first base, and now Castellanos is getting a lot of those at bats.
That makes sense. Zach Sterry's fine. It's like, I don't know. All the games I'm looking at, he's DHing.
Slow pitch softball game. Anyway, but yeah, so Castellanos is interesting. As far as weighing performance versus raw tools, I mean, that one we could have a much longer discussion on, Ian, but let's keep it short because we're already at an hour. Mm-hmm. Depends where you are in the system. I mean, I don't know that I weigh performance. You have to look at why is a guy performing, right?
It's all a piece of a pie.
Yeah. I mean, you can't ignore it, but the thing the big debate for us right now is Denny Reyes.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
we need to clarify something on that too, probably, but yeah.
What? Go ahead.
No. He has plus control. I completely agree with that. And I haven't seen him this year, so I'm not comfortable saying he has plus command. But he clearly, the people within the system think he can command the ball. There's one thing to command against Greenville Drive in the South Atlantic League compared to in the upper minors when you're throwing 90 to 92. That was the point I was trying to get across last week. I'm not sure if it came across clear, but like if you have plus command right now, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to have plus command when you get to the high minors when the hitters can just still hit it because it's 90 miles an hour. That was the only point I was trying to make.
Fair enough.
So he's someone because of the stuff I need to see it at the high minors, and I'm always going to be skeptical until I see it because it's just such a weird profile, and there just aren't that many guys. Like there are a lot of guys not a lot of guys, but you've seen examples of guys who put up insane, like just org players who put up insane K to walk level, like stats. And usually you don't usually see it from Latin American pitchers. It's usually like a college pitcher who was drafted in like the 12th round, who will just breeze through the low minors, striking out a bunch of guys and walking nobody. Then they reach the upper minors and they just start getting lit because when you're throwing 90 to 92, at most, more like 89, 90, you're going to get hit. And so, yeah, that's the thing with him. So he's definitely interesting though. I mean, I think we reflect his rankings pretty accurate. And I think it's kind of consistent with, he's in the top 30. And I think that's right around where he'll be on all the other sites. Like MLB, I think Pipeline has him in the back end of the top 30. Mm-hmm. I suspect that's where he'll be on Alex's list this offseason. Like I don't know what the upside is of a guy like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's back end rotation is the upside.
Yes, but that's like
5% outcome.
Yeah, so I don't know. He's someone I'm very interested to see. I hope he's not going to go to Instructs most likely, which sucks, but I hope he is there because I'd love to see him. Because Salem guys, they don't usually send Salem guys to Instructs.
That's true. Yeah, he is a little not old. Well, yeah, I guess old. He's 21.
But it's also like with him, you think about it, like he's
Rule 5 eligible.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be a fascinating one.
Well, they're not going to add him, and he's not going to get picked. But
I could see him getting picked if some scout loves him. Yeah,
how do you stash him with that stuff?
You don't. You just bring him in basically for a tryout.
That's fair.
You bring him in for what does it cost?
Try to work out a trade.
Yeah, what does it cost you? $25K or something?
Well, I think it went up last year, but not
or whatever. But I could see it as like a tryout. But like it kind of says, I believe he didn't go to Instructs in 2016 or in 2016, and I think that's kind of interesting. I'll have to check. I got to check the Instructs roster.
But, yeah, because I didn't you're looking at his page right now.
Yeah, and I'm almost positive he didn't go that year, and that's kind of like a tip off.
He might have gotten hurt because he only threw 34 innings in the Gulf.
Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah, so that's not a good example.
He probably got hurt.
But I know he's an interesting guy.
And then last year in Lowell, he was a piggyback guy.
Yeah, that's
he started this year as a piggyback guy.
They've never
worked his way into the rotation.
Haven't seen him as like even with his stats in Lowell last year.
Their usage, they haven't believed in him. And the thing is, his stats have been great the whole way up. I mean, he's got career less than 30 walks.
Yeah, so he's a fascinating prospect, and I need to see him again because But anyway, sorry, what was the question about? It was
performance versus scouting, or performance versus raw tools.
Yeah, so in the low minors, I'm more willing to overlook like
performance if the tools are there, especially in a guy's like in their first or second year. Like, cause scouting the stat line can get you in a lot of trouble. Like one of the guys I think of do you remember that Tyler Hill season in Lowell?
Yeah.
That's the one that I always come back to because, I mean, Tyler Hill's like, he's a decent little org player.
Well, you can go back to guys, I mean, especially with pitchers. Like, I remember there was a year that Eamon Portish led the system in strikeouts.
Oh, my God. Portish, what a name.
Yeah, right. There was, I mean, remember when they traded for Chris Balcom Miller and he had these great South Atlantic League stats?
Yeah, I saw him. He also blew out his arm, but yeah.
Well, but I mean, even before then, he hit the wall in AA, you know? And that's with a lot of guys. Okay, great. You've got great stats in A-ball. Wonderful. Unless you're like super young, I want to see it all the way up. I want to see it in AA.
Like you need to see, it's like, because like there are certain guys like Brian Hudson. Do you remember him?
Yeah, but his stats were never great, were they?
No, he always hit. He just never had any power. But if you just looked at it in a vacuum, you're like, oh, look at the average. Like that's good.
He was beating out infield singles.
Exactly. Like the Hill's an example of that. Or like Mike Myers. Like there's guys who put up good stats in the low minors. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate when you get up to the upper minors.
Right.
And that's kind of where you need to see, like, that's where you have to evaluate the tools. Because, you know, there are like really good organizational players who are always going to put up good stats, but they just don't have that carrying tool to push them over the line to project as a major leaguer. And so, yeah, it's like, you need to evaluate everything, but they're all different pieces of a pie when it comes to, you know, you're looking at like a player's body type, their makeup, their raw tools, how performance, like all of it needs to be taken into account. It just needs to be weighed differently.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, thanks for the question. Our next question is from Chase Robertson. He asks a question about Brandon Phillips. He says, with another hot start tonight, has he got a chance of an August 31st call-up? I would presume he's saying that so that he could be on the team in the playoffs, which, they've got guys in the 60-day DL. So
yeah, I don't think it matters because he's already in the system.
Well, but I'm just saying, like, guys called up who aren't called up before August 31st can still be added to the playoff roster if they're replacing someone who's on the 60-day DL.
Gotcha.
And the Red Sox will have, you know, like Carson Smith and Dustin Pedroia probably.
No, he's already on it.
That's what I'm saying. Those guys are on the 60-day DL.
So if
will still be on the 60-day DL when they make the playoff roster, so they'll be able to add guys. They have to be in the organization before August 31st in order to.
I thought you were saying that if they have to be moved to the 60-day. I got you. Yeah, Austin Maddox is another example. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, although he just started a rehab assignment.
So really? Okay, Marco Hernandez is a better example then because he's out there.
Yes, but so he said, you know, batting 301 or close to it, I think, or only barring an injury. I don't think he means barring an injury. I think he means only barring an injury. He's not coming up. But yeah, thanks for the question, Chase. Brandon Phillips, you've seen him. Ian, what did you think of Phillips? And then I'll get to the numbers.
He wasn't great at first in Pawtucket. His bat looked a little off the pace. I think it was just getting up to the game speed. But of late, he's hitting the ball a little better. With the Kinsler trade, I think that kind of closed that door.
Yeah,
because it's like
hurt. Although they just activated him.
No, he just activated him. But even then, like, it's a tough player to shoehorn onto the roster because he only plays second base. He can't. I mean, has he played? I think he's played some third base.
They said he was. Yeah, he has played a little bit of third base. They said they were going to work him out there too.
He's not great at second base, frankly, even there. But I just don't see how he fits on the roster because if you're calling him up, he's got to be playing every day because he's just not a bench profile. And if that's the case, I mean, I guess like if Kinsler and Nunez got hurt, you do it. Mm-hmm. But if one of
Holt, don't forget Holt. I mean,
well, that's the thing. Like you have Holt also. They have Devers potentially coming back. Like I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so his line on the year is 297, 348, 432, 781. But I think that includes Lowell, where he didn't hit at all. He hit really much. He actually hit down there. But at any rate,
he hit well in Lowell.
Yeah, he did hit well. That's right. But you know, I mean, if you look at him in AAA, the full line is 292, 349, 427. He went over 3 yesterday, so he might have been 301 when the email got sent in. But, you know, the reason he's, quote, hot lately, from August the 8th through August the 16th in 8 games, he was 15 for 32. 1 walk, and a sac fly. So the slash line was 469, 471, 656. No home runs, 6 doubles. He has 2 home runs since signing with the Red Sox. One of them was in Lowell.
I've actually seen both of them, funnily enough.
Interesting. But like during that stretch, 536 average on balls in play. I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, he's not.
It's luck.
I just don't.
I don't see it. I don't see him coming up.
I get why he's still there though, because if there's a chance that
why not?
If a bunch of injuries happen, who knows? Like, because he's right in the sense that if they do need someone, I'd be more comfortable if they need someone who actually has to play, calling him up than Tony Renda in like a starting capacity. But if they're going to call someone up to like a bench role, it's going to be Renda. Like that's why they added him to the 40-man roster.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Renda, you can DFA. I mean, and now
you can DFA Phillips too, but like Renda just is he's more versatile in a bench role.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I'm saying like they called Renda up when they did because Phillips wasn't playing well, and Renda they just needed for a short amount of time, and it's like with Dan Butler, they brought him up knowing they could DFA him. Like, yeah,
but it's interesting to me that they've kept Renda on the 40-man, whereas they sent Butler down and immediately took him off the 40.
Well, no, he didn't have options left.
Who?
Butler.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
They had to DFA him to get him back down.
Oh, Renda has options, right?
Yeah,
fair
Renda
enough.
has options.
Didn't realize that.
Yep. And our last question comes from Jason Bonini. Jason says, hey, guys, what do you know about the organization's international spending this year? It seems like they mismanaged the luxury tax threshold by only going over by a few million, and they don't seem to have spent much on international guys. Both seem strange when they're trying to rebuild the farm. Thanks, Jason. First things first, because it's quick, luxury tax threshold, they definitely mismanaged it. We were talking about this beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they were this close and went over, that's not great.
Went over when they did, as opposed to like Tony Watson would have looked real nice in a Red Sox uniform.
Yeah, it's not a great look. I mean, they clearly, I don't know what it was, if there was a miscalculation on some regards or whatever, but
or they were. I think what it was, Ian, was they were hoping they wouldn't need to. And then when it became clear Pedroia wasn't coming back and they needed to acquire a starting pitcher, it's like, okay, you need a starting second baseman and you need a starting pitcher.
Yeah. But still, like, I think you could trace it back to the offseason, though. Like the Eduardo Nunez contract, not great. $4 million.
No, based on how he played last year, that wasn't a bad deal.
I don't know. If I'm close, I'd find someone else for cheaper. And it's
when they signed him, wasn't your reaction? I would say the Moreland deal was much more of a head scratcher.
What was the Moreland deal? 6.5.
6.5 for
because I looked at it that Moreland was playing every day, more or less, at the time. Because remember, they didn't have JD Martinez at that when they signed him.
But
whereas
they were going to sign him, no one else was going to sign Martinez.
Yeah, but he wasn't signed then.
Yeah, but if you're going to go with because remember how early they signed him in December.
Yeah.
No other free agents had signed yet, practically. Like, why not wait him out and sign him for half that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a fair question.
I'm just saying, I think the Moreland deal at the time, because remember last year Eduardo Nunez was good, as opposed to now when he is not good.
But he wasn't good defensively last year. But yeah, fair enough.
I mean, you didn't know his knee was going to be as bad.
But I think, and I earlier I was mentioning like the Brock Holt Zue Lin thing, but actually the more I thought about that, that's not fair because Zue Lin what?
Keep the depth, and you haven't seen Zue Lin over a full season in the majors.
Well, no, it's also that he hadn't made the swing changes yet. Like if you look, he hit 227 in Pawtucket last year. I mean, I know he's raking now, and he actually looks really good at the plate. He's hitting 328 in Pawtucket now with a 487 slug, which is insane for him.
Yeah.
But he hadn't made the swing changes, so I wouldn't say like the Brock Holt, Zue Lin thing I mentioned before is fair.
When you say mentioned before, we should clarify this.
Yeah, basically I was saying that
before we started recording.
Correct. Yes. So, but it's not ideal.
Yeah. But as for the other part of the question, what do you know about their international spending this year? I mean, I think we've touched on this, right? It's basically they only signed one really big bonus baby and a center fielder, Eduardo Lopez, out of the Dominican for 1.15. And then it appears that they went with a lot of kind of, I guess what I'll call mid-range deals. Only some of them have been reported. I think we're going to try and find out a little bit more about what they've spent I think it wouldn't surprise me if they'd spent a lot more in the 300,000 range.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not going to judge their international period until it ends. Like, I don't think it's fair to right now look back because there's still, another 9 months or 11 months.
Yeah,
they can sign guys. Or 10 months.
True. I mean, but it's interesting. Here's my thing. They traded Lorenzo Cedrola for more international pool space. They wouldn't have done that at this point if they weren't using it. And the salaries that have been reported don't even pass with their original bonus pool.
Yeah, their salaries that have been reported are like
not even close.
3. It's like 3.6.
Yeah, and their initial bonus pool was 4,983.
Yeah, it's like so they have like another million. They basically have like 2.5 to 3 million left still.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. They there's no way they didn't budget for something, so something's going to happen. I
don't think it's something that's going to happen, Ian. My point is that I don't think every salary has been reported.
Correct. That's what I should have said. It's either the salaries, a bunch of some of the guys we listed aren't correct, like that don't have salaries got a couple $100K, or they have. It could be also they have a guy who doesn't turn 16 until September that they're giving money to. You see situations like that because they can't sign until the birthday. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's someone they're signing late. I wouldn't pass judgment on them.
And before anybody says, I don't think it's a Victor Mesa thing because they wouldn't have traded Cedrola now for that pool space if it were for Victor Mesa, who's he's a top Cuban player who's not yet been declared a free agent, who's going to be a free agent in this signing period.
Well, I disagree with that because you have to do it early because I'm sure there were other teams trying to get that pool space from the Reds.
I don't know that I agree with that because there's plenty of pool space left. Because you've got a lot of teams that
penalty still
are in the penalty and have cap space they're not going to use.
True. There's teams with way more money than them for Mesa, so I just don't see it.
I mean, let me put it this way. If they traded Lorenzo Cedrola for pool space for Victor Mesa, that is a mistake because you don't know you're signing him. Like, wait and find someone then if you need it, because there will be teams that still have cap space.
Saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Because what if you wind up trading Lorenzo Cedrola for cap space you're not going to use?
Yeah,
then literally given Lorenzo Cedrola to the Reds in that case.
Yeah, true. Because the cap space is not like it rolls over.
Not that Lorenzo Cedrola is like a top 20 prospect in the system, but
no. Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's it. Those are all the emails. Thank you, everybody, for the emails. Again, it's podcast@soxprospects.com. Ian, we're at 121, so let's just wrap this up and we'll talk about.
Let's cut it.
We'll talk about Darwin's and Hernandez and Brandon Howlett in the next episode.
Yeah, I think that's more. It would be a better
good
discussion for when rankings come out too.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you to our podcast editor, Podcast Joe 2.0, Joe Tetrault. You can follow Ian at Ian Cundall, IANCUNDALL, on Twitter. You can follow me at SP Chris Hatfield, and make sure you're following the site account at Sox Prospects. Very easy. Make sure you're following us on the website, on the news page, everything else. Like I said, it might be a couple weeks before we're back because we are unavailable for the next couple of weeks, but we'll be back at you hopefully in early September. Ian, you'll be around, I'm sure. I'll be around. Send us your email questions. Thanks, everybody.